Hello, I'm Tim and you are watching the Single Malt Review with our Ardbeg Day 2016 special, or Ardbeg Night as I should say. They've sort of spun the whole dark thing into a bit of a shtick for this one. And they're calling it dark for a fairly good reason, because this one, Dark Cove, is all about sherry matured whiskey. But is it any good, or are they just late to the party with the whole sherry matured shtick? We'll just have to find out. So, bottle tells you more or less what you need to know. Fairly simple, descriptive, good sensible tasting notes on the back, nice and clean. Slightly worrying, it doesn't say anything about whether it's unchill filtered or uncoloured. And that's a bit of a worry, because normally if it was either of those two things, they would put them in pretty clearly. So we'll just have to use a bit of whisky science. Whisky science as we go into this one to find out whether they're having us on or not. Although, if someone in Germany can get a bottle and have a wee look, those bottles are required by law to say if they're coloured. So you could post up in the comments and give us some empirical information rather than just my guesswork to go on. But anyway, that aside, what are we looking at? You know what? If they have coloured it, they've done it pretty subtly, because that is not a bombastically sherried appearance. That's looking quite honest. And when I say sherried, they're perfectly honest about that. It's not a 100% sherried whiskey. It's, as they say, a blend of sherry matured and American oak matured. I'd say it's probably about 50-50. I think that's about all Ardbeg could sustain. I don't think there's enough Ardbeg sherry matured whiskey in the world to make the numbers of bottles that they need to make for these Ardbeg Day releases, which they, very good of them, they make enough for everybody. You can almost always pick one of these up if you want them, and so long as you're quick. If you dally, then you might be out of luck, especially if it's a strong release, which this one, spoilers, this one is. So, you know, get down there if you're in any doubt. Anyway, let's see, what's in here? Whew. That's an exciting nose right off the bat. Right off the bat you can tell this is something else. It's very, very different to your normal Ardbeg. Of course, the classic formula, what comes from the spirit and what comes from the peat, is still there. That tremendous sort of bituminous character, that's tar to most people, I suppose. That sort of oily Hessian sack, that tremendous citrus, lemon, lime, and that smoked meat. That's all still there, but what isn't there is that thick helping of vanilla, which comes from the very, very predominant sherry rather American oak, I should say, Quercus alba. That maturation brings a lot of vanilla, which is not absent, but more restrained in this one. And from that restraint, you get more character out of these, frankly, more interesting flavours. A great many bourbon matured whiskies taste of vanilla. It's perfectly pleasant, but it's not ever particularly complex. It's fairly one note. So I don't think the lack of it is doing it any harm whatsoever, especially once you get into what's there in its stead, which is so much more. There's almost a strawberry berry sweetness coming through from this European wood, from this sherry maturation, and it's really quite tremendous. The other thing you notice immediately is that this is not very peaty, not by Ardbeg standards, not by the standards of the most heavily peated Islay whiskey, outside of a few special releases where they all get together and make hilariously peated ones like Optimal and so forth. Ardbeg 10-year-old is by and large the most heavily peated whiskey on the shelf on any given day of the week. But this one isn't. This one is comparatively mild, and that may be coming through from a special formula of peating levels, but I think it's coming from somewhere a bit more exciting. I think it's coming from age. I think this is a significantly older whiskey than we're used to dealing with when it comes to Ardbeg. I think this is quite a bit older than the 10-year-old. I think it's probably got an average age of 15, maybe 16, maybe even 18 years old, were you to ask me. Because the peat has begun to diminish, which happens in all peated whiskies, and it can reveal, sometimes it can reveal nothing at all. I've had some really, really disappointing 35-year-old Collilas where the peat has begun to fade away to reveal nothing. Not really much of a winner there. But sometimes it can fade away to reveal magic. And that's what it's beginning to do here. Peeling back that layer of savage peat, and this wonderful chocolate box was underneath it, and we just didn't even know. And that's what's here. Dark chocolate, but very, very sweet dark chocolate with a real creamy berry filling in this case. Sort of a strawberry compote. I'm getting flashes of older sherry matured spring bank, which is not something I ever thought I'd make the connection with from Ardbeg, but there you go. The cured meat is also less because the peat is less. And the citrus is less of a racy, acidic number that it is in the 10-year-old, and it's more of a slightly quieter, candied peel with maybe a little bit of salty Moroccan preserved lemon on the side. Coming in through the marine influence. It's really, really very good. It's a completely different whiskey than Ardbeg 10-year-old normally is. Completely different direction. It's quite phenomenal. So, let's see what's on the palate. As far as Ardbeg goes, that's pretty smooth at full strength, which I in fact failed to mention, quite remiss of me. It's 46.5%, which is a slightly odd strength. I'm not sure who decided to put the extra 0.5% in there. It's not cask strength, I can tell you that with some authority. There's simply no way casks got down to that level. That's wild. That's really wild. I'm still getting flashes of good, sherry matured, old spring bank, and that's, as far as I'm concerned, never a bad thing. There's strawberries are still there, sort of a strawberry jam, like an older strawberry jam, one you found at the back of the cupboard. Gone just slightly musty, but not in necessarily a displeasing way. There's dark treacle. In addition to lighter golden syrup, it's very, very sweet. If it was any sweeter, it would be too sweet, but peated whiskies like this, they have a lot of leeway to get sweet without getting sickly because of that peat. The peat dries them out, and so what you get is a lovely sweet and salty, almost a salted caramel edge coming through, and I think that's absolutely marvellous. If you didn't have that peat and you made a whiskey this sweet, it would get quite overbearing. It would be just too much dessert in one glass. But this is remarkably balanced. For every sort of dollop of sweetness in here, there's a lovely strike of peat to dry it out and provide contrast, background. And it's pretty wonderful. The citrus has turned all the way from fresh, zingy juice to lovely sugar-encrusted, candied peel in this. The chocolate is maybe not as dark as on the nose. It's more of a milk chocolate. It's very, very moreish. And it all comes together at the same time, which makes describing it in a short video very, very difficult to do. The tasting notes on the back of the bottle, I think they do a good job. Without writing a wall of text, I don't think you could really do this one justice, because it is quite a complex whiskey. There's a lot of balls in the air when you're tasting this one, so to speak. But what I can say, unreservedly, is, boy, does that taste good. I enjoyed the 2015 Ardbeg Perpetuum. This one, it's almost a completely different thing. It is much, much better. Now, I gave that Perpetuum a score of, well, it was on the old scoring system because it was a year ago and we're really just getting started. I gave it an 8.0, but with a few fairly simple maths, we'll call that an 80 out of 100. This one's outdone that one by some distance. This is a 91. This is a hell of a whiskey, and I would not miss out on it if you're any kind of an Ardbeg fan. And this is what this whiskey is for. This is for Ardbeg fans. It's a little pricier than the other Ardbeg Day releases, and it's certainly pricier than the 10-year-old. But for what you're getting, I don't think that's unreasonable at all, because even if it's a half and half, sherry matured Ardbeg whiskey is a very, very rare thing, and when you can get your hands on it, it can be, and it is in this instance, some of the most beautiful flavours you can find in the entire world of whiskey. I'm sure that's somewhat coloured by how absolutely uncommon it is to find, but even that said, this is one of the best whiskies I've had in some time. So there you go. Absolutely recommended. I'm not going to put water in it because the strength is already, I think, fairly well perfect, and I know what's going to happen. If I put water in, it will bring out the peat and it will recede the wood flavours, and that will do this whiskey a disservice. So by all means, do that experiment yourself, but I'm not going to. I'm going to enjoy this glass as it is. I think that's just perfect. Just the way it comes. So anyway, that was the Single Malt Review with our Ardbeg Day 2016 special. I do hope to get this up while it's still Ardbeg Day, because I have about 24 hours leeway by the grace of my slightly exotic time zone. So you should be able to get this while things are still going on. And if that's the case, do look up your local Ardbeg embassy. It won't be its own place, it'll be a whisky specialist that have a special sort of a agreement with Ardbeg. And they will have a big old pile of these bottles for you to buy, and they'll be the best place for you to get it. And as long as you act within the next day or two, and I really would, because this is a good one, and once word gets out, people are going to be scrambling for this one. It may dry up pretty fast, but there should be plenty of stock for people that need it, that act. So go and get some. That's my advice. Anyway, in the meantime, do keep safe. This has been the Single Malt Review. I promise I'm still working on Destination Scotland. There's just a bit of editing work required, and I'm a bit busy at the moment, but never mind. Never too busy for whiskey. Slàinte.